Most people would park their phones in their drawers for that one day when my phone walks off. And that is also the reason why there's a huge potential in the market. Our competition is not anyone else but the drawer. And this is a typical question that a lot of us would get is that, what do you really do with these devices? We buy a device, we give you a good price. Second is the ease of the process. Come to your doorstep, pick it up. People don't know the value that it has. We inherently are very like to save. And third, people have a lot of concerns around data and privacy around their phone. And that's where Cashify entered. I joined Cashify through Bloom's ex-founders initiative. Bloom is one of the investors in Cashify.
Yeah.
What I really liked about Cashify was the people around Cashify. I met the founders, Mandeep, Nakul, Amit, and Siddhant. Four of them with their teams. We had very interesting conversations. For me, people and relationships are something that have carried me all through. I am a people's person, and keeping that at the center of everything that I do. So I think that's why partnerships come very naturally to me.
Let's break it down a lot.
Yeah.
So we should first tackle what is Cashify really trying to do.
Right.
Like, what are they in the business of?
Right.
And what are they trying to do?
Cashify is a e-commerce company. What e-commerce means, right? So as it's reverse commerce, right? So a lot of it comes from not selling but buying. And this is a typical question that a lot of us, even the founders and everyone would get is that, what do you really do with these devices, right? Because a lot of people think that there's no value to their devices. And a very interesting thing that our founder used to say a lot of times, that to give us a sense of how huge the market is that our competition is not anyone else but the drawer, right? Because most people would park their phones in their drawers that for that one day when my phone walks off, or for my kid, or for somebody else. And that is also the reason why there's a huge potential in the market, because people don't know the value that it has, right? We inherently are very like to save, right? That okay, we might need to use it, for a rainy day. And third, people have a lot of concerns around data and privacy around their phone, right? And that's where Cashify entered, right? We buy a device, we give you a good price. Cashify helps you with price discovery. So price discovery essentially tells you that this is what your phone could be worth. Second is the ease of the process. Come to your doorstep, pick it up, or you would go to a partner store and you would exchange your device there, right? Everything is visible to you seamlessly, like getting delivery of food. Similarly, right? Selling your own device. And it really evolved from the P2P marketplaces around us, right? The OLXs of the world, etc. Right? Because India is a very trust deficit market. And this is where a role of a managed marketplace or a end-to-end service provider comes in. So that's why energies were focused in giving customers the best experience for selling their own device. And also addressing concerns around data, and you would not know that if your phone is in your name and it's misused for some activity, and if there's a police complaint, you are the person, you're the owner, right? There's no registry of devices, so to say, like your car is transferred from one person to the other. And that's where Cashify came in, right? And Cashify would actually gives you a purchase receipt. A lot of people don't know this, right? Cashify says that I have actually bought this device from Harsh. If tomorrow something happens, you can just show this.
Let's go deeper here, right?
Yeah.
If you can go down to the unit economics,
Right.
Okay. So I would assume how they making money is I take your old phone, I refurbish it,
Correct.
I make it crazy,
Correct.
and I charge a markup on it.
Correct.
Is that it? Or what are they really in the business of?
It's a lot of elements. Cashify buys at a certain price. Not every device is sort of refurbishable.
Correct.
Right? So Cashify would first buy, then grade devices in certain grades, and then based on the eligibility of the device being refurbished, refurbish it or not refurbish it.
Okay.
Now, the device not being refurbished for Cashify does not mean that there is no scope for the device not to be resold. India is a vast market with variety of users, right? So there's one type of devices up there, which is Cashify's certified devices. Comes with 6-month warranty, very minimal scratches, as new as it gets, right? But there's also long tail of devices. Call them grade C, grade D, grade E, right? Now, Wi-Fi not working could be a problem for me, right? Because I am in a metro city, Wi-Fi is everywhere, etc. Right? But say in a tier 2 or a tier 3 town where they only use a 5G or a 4G SIM to power their device, Wi-Fi might not be a problem.
Correct.
So there's a huge market of people out there who are willing to buy these devices. Then these devices might not be value added in terms of Cashify, but are actually resold in the market. Cashify has a large number of dealers and distributors that buy from Cashify. So Cashify has a B2B bidding platform where all these retail stores, retailers buy from Cashify.
So for example, okay, I have a bunch of phones that I bought from users.
Yeah.
They may be grade C, grade D, grade E. And users may not buy it.
Right.
But they have an arm which then sells it.
Yeah. So Cashify buys from consumers and buys from businesses.
Yeah.
Buying from businesses, this partnerships on the enterprise vertical, right? And there's a direct to consumer vertical, right? Then everything goes into Cashify's grading testing mechanism, and post that it is sold by Cashify or it is sold to partners, right? And by partners I mean the retailers and dealers that are present on Cashify's app.
But why are they buying it?
Selling to someone in a tier 2, tier 3 city
It's completely different.
is completely different, right? And your trust is more on that local general trade partner than say a brand who will have to spend X amount of money to build that trust.
So like, what is their right to win? What is this industry? Is it core focused on changing the behavior, like you said, people store in their drawers? What is their right to win?
I think so long as mobile devices are here to stay, there is a huge moat for Cashify to win in terms of the technology that they've built and in terms of how seamless they've made the whole experience.
Yeah.
It's also about going through that learning curve of education. Cashify has spent a lot of time being at the center of this industry, has spent a lot of time building programs and educating not only consumers but a lot of other partners in terms of what value can a take back program or a trade-in program have on new sales. Think of it this way, that you have a phone that is worth say 5,000 rupees. If you didn't have a program like Cashify, a trade-in program, and your budget was 15,000 rupees, you would only buy a 15,000 rupee phone. But now, because Cashify is giving you 5,000 rupees for your old phone, you can buy a 20,000 rupee phone. And when you top that up with the whole ecosystem that has evolved today to offer you a good offer on credit card, a good offer on EMI, etc. Right? Literally with a 20,000 rupee, if pocket allows, right, you can buy an iPhone.
So let's get into this partnerships role that you ultimately took up. Tell me, what were initial days like? What was the problem looking like?
So to be honest, I went in Feb 2020, just pre-COVID, right? That was like a blessing for me because there were some new projects that were there within the partnerships role that I could work from scratch. And one of those partnerships was Apple, the India store, apple.com store. Has trade-in services, right? So those are powered by Cashify. We are their trade-in partner. So just having that time to work with a lot of these large brands, large OEMs and large retailers in India to work on their problems. And I think the timing was also there that people were thinking online first. So even large retailers were thinking online first. That gave me a lot of perspective in terms of how these retailers are thinking and where the problem is for them. So partnerships was not a big piece at that point in time. We were majorly online first and had a few OEMs that we used to work with. In the offline side, we had some retail stores that we were working with. But a lot of these retail stores, especially who were large retail stores, had their own ways of working with unorganized players. So, breaking through a lot of that and telling them how a platform can give them visibility in terms of what is happening and how this trade-in transaction, a sellback transaction, can help them in increasing their sales. A lot of things work, right? The industry was sort of shifting. COVID propelled the online first thinking, right? And just all those ingredients make those conversations easier, and we were able to talk through a lot of things that we could offer to them.
Let's break it down, right? For example, assume a person working at their companies, could be any industry, partnerships with them. How does it start? For example, partnering with Apple. Sure, I mean, it's easy to say now, but like, how do you even start? Like, how do you, for example, reach out and all of these things? Like, what were the initial days like?
Think of partnerships like partnerships and not a medium to extract something for yourself. And really going down to the depth of building that whole journey out for the two people, right? For the two brands that are going to come together.
Okay, dig deeper, right? So like, tell me like an example of how it worked out for say any of these brands that you partner with, right? So you say okay, it has to happen to the ground level,
right?
Give me an example of how it played out.
Think of it this way, right? Of course, a lot of sales happen on Amazon, Flipkart, etc. Keeping that aside, a lot of phones and consumer electronics are sold through offline retailers.
Okay.
If I go and partner with a brand and I expect it to work just by the virtue of partnering with a brand, that's not going to happen. The effective person advocating that brand is the retailer. If I'm not keeping the retailer as a stakeholder in the partnership, it's not going to happen. Why should a retailer pitch a trade-in transaction to a customer if the retailer doesn't understand and is going to give him more business? Or it's going to increase his ARPU. If you look at a retailer from a customer transaction perspective, if it doesn't increase my transaction volume, why should a retailer, even pitch a trade-in transaction, right? Or even entertain? I would say that, we even went down to the extent of building the right dashboards for the owners, managers, everyone. Because we didn't want to seem as competition to the current way of business. We wanted to seem as an addition to it. So, an example that I can give you is that in a retail space, a lot of traffic comes together in the evening, right?
And okay, let's break down the retail space also.
Right.
So, okay, like the retail, for example, like is it like an Apple store? Is it like a JioMart?
In retail, broadly, there are general trade and modern trade. In the modern trade, there could be large format retail like Crore, Reliance, Vijay Sales, etc. Then there could be brand stores, which are Apple stores, Xiaomi stores, etc. Or there are multi-brand stores. So single brand stores and multi-brand stores. LFR is in the multi-brand store category, which is large format retail, right? And there are regional chains, right? So of course, a brand has more control, right? But a large format retail store, a lot of these large format retail and regional retail chains think and work in their own scheme of things, right? Because there is a certain reality on ground.
Let's see the partnerships that you cracked, right? Also, can you go through the sequence if you want? For example, what came first? What were learnings there?
When I joined, Apple was one of the first partnerships that I worked on. From there, a lot of partnerships were around doing offline retail partnerships, right? So, say, how do you work with a large format retail store and give them access and build an ecosystem for them, which is where all their stores can work in the same way. Think of any large format retail. Most of them would have 100 plus stores. Now, their problem was most stores had very different pricing and very different way of transaction, because this was not a transaction that was on paper, literally, right? Because say a vendor in Bangalore gives a better price than a vendor in Delhi, or vice versa, right? So it was very region specific. And for brands, it is also a problem, right? How do you build a cohesive experience, not only offline, but also online? So COVID also taught them that omni-channel is something that we need to do, right? So I think first for us was allowing them to build an ecosystem which got them on parity across any store. So of course, new phone prices are governed, right, by brands, by MRPs, etc., right? But old phone has no price. It's a commodity. It could be 50 rupees for you and 500 rupees for me, right? So building that price discoverability, as I was saying, on the consumer side, we also build that on the business side, right? So allowing any sales representative on floor to give a consumer a fair estimate of the phone in like say 20 seconds. How could you do that, right? Initially, our consumer side app was a similar version was being run on the retail side. And they would be like, I can get a price from a local vendor in X seconds, right? Why should I use your app?
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
We realized that our user is not the user, the consumer. It's the folks on the floor, right? The sales rep on the floor is somebody who's going to make that decision, right? I don't have to make the owner's life easy. Of course, that is a huge part of what I'm doing. I have to make the management's life easy, right? But I also have to make sure that I start with making the sales representative's life easy.
Correct.
So making sure that they are able to get the price in 20-30 seconds. Making sure that all the offers that are there, that are curated between brands, Cashify and everyone, are visible to them in a seamless way in the app. So having those offers in the right place, having that information, whatever information was required for the sales rep to convince the consumer that what is the price of their old device, identification on the old device, right? Easy identification. So we built something like scan the IMEI and you get all the details, right? Simple. Giving a fair price, telling the best offers, which device should you upgrade to? We had like things like how likely is it for you to upgrade from say an iPhone 12 to an iPhone 15? What is that device that you would really upgrade to, right? So a lot of analytics there, right? Interestingly, most consumers try and stick to the same brand, right? So even in Android, if you're using a certain brand, you would be most comfortable upgrading to the same brand.
Correct.
Right? Even though ecosystem, the OS is same across a lot of other brands, right? But that comfort is there. So those kind of analytics, those kind of that kind of information to give to the sales rep to be able to guide them to the right product. Getting into that detail of a transaction is what is important for a partnership. It's not just saying that, I have the best discount or the best offer for you to buy a X device when you sell your X device. It's making sure that offer really translates to a transaction, right? And whatever goes down to that transaction, you build everything around it.
I've understood the side of the retailer,
Right.
solving for that sales rep. But where does the brand partnership come into the picture?
Right.
So, like you told me that partnering with OEMs,
Right.
like why even partner with them?
As I was telling you, right, the competition is the drawer. And OEMs channels are the place where the transaction is happening, where the new sale is happening. That is where your mind space is thinking about that purchase decision. And if I can give you a certain aha moment around saving you certain, say, I shave off 30% of the price of your new device because you're upgrading from 2 generations back or 3 generations back of the same brand or the same series, right? So isn't that like a big aha moment for you, right? Being a loyalist helped, right? Or wow, my old device is worth so much, right? So again, going back to discovery, right? So we created that option of discovery at the point of purchase of a new device, because at that point in time, the mind space is thinking about the purchase decision. And if the phone ends up going to the drawer, it's going to take a lot many more nudges for you to get it out of the drawer. So capturing the consumer at the point of the transaction was most important. That's why the offline partnerships, retail partnerships, that's why online partnerships, making sure that partnerships are happening. And that's why Cashify's whole voice around sell your old device.
So for example, how did the Apple partnership work out?
Apple is that ecosystem that is very difficult to leave. Right?
For sure.
Or the resistance to move out is too high. Because the switching cost is very high. Most brands, you're upgrading from a similar brand. Of course, in Apple more so, because once you're an Apple consumer, the switching cost is very high. So having that trade-in program really gave you, say if you're buying an iPhone 15 today and you're selling an iPhone 14, you're almost able to shave off 60% of the price of an iPhone 15. So cost of ownership is only 40%. That kind of really resonated with the customers. Right? Because when that Apple eStore was launched, it really gave consumers an embedded option of selling their old device and having to pay only the balance amount, which was very rare in especially the online side of things. Offline, this is how the transaction happens, right? This across every OEM now. It's called one-step exchange, which is hand-on-hand exchange. You buy a new device, you say you declare what is the old device that you have, that much value is shaved off from your new device purchase,
Correct.
right? And you only have to pay balance.
Correct.
How easy it is for you, right?
Yeah.
Now you're not out of money on day one, and then you have to think about selling your device to on OLX or on Cashify.
So basically, the job would be to convince every fucking OEM
Yeah,
that this, because it's embedded into the user journey,
right.
it's, hey, you do not have to pay an X amount.
Correct.
It breaks the friction.
Correct.
I can just trade in my
Correct.
device and I'll pay the remaining
Correct.
charge.
It's basically like putting our money where the mouth is, right? So, or putting our product where the money is, right?
Yeah.
Because the transaction and the money exchange happens there, and we are enabling that transaction. So why not go to the online store and integrate there? Why not go to the offline store and give the best possible experience?
And I would assume the whole aha moment for the business side of things would be, hey, we just integrated with Cashify, and whenever a person trades in their device, the AOV goes up.
Correct.
It's very interesting.
Correct.
Nice. Was that like the primary GTVD that you understood while?
From a jobs to be done perspective, right? It's financial, right? In terms of making sure that the average order value goes up for the consumer, right? Be also offering the consumer a safe space to exchange. And the whole, as I said, right, Cashify gives you a purchase receipt.
Yeah.
Giving that consumer an experience of safety, right? Because the safer you make the transaction, the chances of consumer trading in goes up.
So, for example, if I do trade in my iPhone on the Apple website today in India, will Cashify come and pick it up? Is that the problem?
When you buy a product on Apple's website, you would have a logistics partner come to your doorstep who have been trained to do the whole process, right? They will do the process, and you just have to pay the balance, right? You pay the balance, and your old device is taken, and your new device is delivered to you.
Tell me, by the time that you were leaving, tell me that journey. Like,
Right.
when you were coming in, you said that partnerships was not a big chunk
Right.
of the budget.
Right.
Tell me what was the scenario like when you left.
So partnerships today is, I would say, in terms of volume and value, would contribute anywhere between 40 to 50%. And in the overall journey from 2020 early to 2023, about 3 years, 9 months, 8 months journey, we were able to scale the partnerships vertical at least 7-8x. And there were times we felt that back in 2020, we felt we were just a partnerships vertical. But I think by the time I moved on, we were talking business.
Yeah.
Right? So that was a great feeling for me.
I think if you have to reflect back, especially tips for leaders, right? Because leading these things is not easy.
Right.
Like you said, you joined it complete 0 to 1 and 1 to 10 rule, I'm assuming. So, what does that look like? And tips for leaders, early leaders who are getting into these roles, they're very 0 to 1. What would you recommend them, advise them?
Part of it I've already said earlier, that put yourself in the partner's shoe, solve for the partner rather than solving for yourself. Really over-index in the small things like the experience at the doorstep. Don't think that that is a problem for someone else to solve.
Who's a real user?
Who's your real user in terms of, literally, so for example, if we were to just partner with an OEM and let the functions work across various verticals, etc., right? It would not work the same way. Having that ownership to get the job done at the doorstep, right? Or from the top level to the ground level is what something needs to, that depth needs to be there. Second, I feel for a lot of early leaders who want to, build partnerships, spend a lot of time on the job and off the job. By that I mean that you of course need to understand, be in the partner's shoe, etc. But the real value comes from being off the job and going really to your users and talking to your users. And I don't really mean that you need to go out to, might need to go out and talk to customers, right? But say in Cashify's, in our case, our users were retailers, right? Our users were sales rep, etc., right? So really understanding what they want and understanding who the proponent is of your product or promoter of your product, right? Like when we talk about NPS, really identifying that promoter, right? And I feel again, like as part of that depth also comes breadth. When you're doing a partnership, you need to understand a lot of what happens within your organization, because when you go and represent your organization to a to a large giant or to even a small person, right, you need to know everything of what's happening in your company, right? And I think that's the beauty of a partnership role, that it gives you visibility in places a lot of other people would not get visibility.